How many times have you had the experience that by the moment you realized you were awake, you had to get to work, and you were late, and you had to run into the bathroom and get it all done and shout goodbye to everybody and get in a car or whatever it was, and like because you were late to get someplace else? Okay? And really, I mean, part of it is driven by fear. Fear of what your colleagues will think of you, or fear that you won't get it all done by the end of the day, which of course you won't, and you already know that, because there's no end to it. So here's a little homework to do in the bathroom, okay? The next time you're in the shower, check and see if you're in the shower. You may not be there. You may be in a meeting. Or your whole meeting may be in the shower with you. And you may be having one hell of an argument with people who are not there. But you're missing the water on the skin. Your proprioceptive action is nowhere near your awareness, so you're lathering and soaping and washing and toweling and drying and everything else with virtually like on autopilot. But you know, this moment is your life. It's not like, well, we're living for some other moment. It's like, if you sum that kind of mindlessness over time, it could be 90% of your waking life. And I use the word waking advisedly in parenthesis, in quotation marks. You get the drift of this? And this has profound clinical implications. This is not just some kind of dime store philosophy or some new age bull, or for that matter, you know, sort of like just a skin graft of Taoism or Buddhism to the West or anything like that. This is like the ultimate nature of human existence. Do we understand the domain of being, or do we not? Can we inhabit our lives while we have them to live as if they were worth actually knowing with some degree of intimacy, so that we could live the lives that are ours to live and do actually the work that's ours to do, as opposed to being driven by a whole range of very complex motives that sometimes have us doing somebody else's work. Or we don't even know why we're doing the work. Or we got so much work, we're doing 20 things at once, and none of them are actually going very well, because human beings can't do 20 things at once for very long. Or even 2. So the next time you are on your cell phone, or like not on your cell phone, not on your phone, and you find the mind actually checking your email or sending an email, watch, notice what you're doing. The important thing isn't what you do, it's the awareness of it. Okay, it's the awareness. We've spent most of our lives learning how to think critically, right? And a lot of attention has been paid to that in our education, and we pride ourselves with being really critical thinkers. We've gotten to be so critical thinkers, such critical thinkers, that we're basically thinking 24/7 with no awareness of it, and believing everything that crosses the screen of the mind is the truth. So if some of the thoughts are quite negative or depressive or anxious, we believe them, you know, especially the ones around the personal pronouns. I'm too this, I'm not enough that. And we take that as fact. It's not fact, it's just like conditioned, you know, patterns in the mind that have never been examined. So can we cultivate intimacy with the domain of being? Can we, in fact, be at home in our own skin? Or are we living from here up? Can we drop in on the body? Can we come to our senses, all of them, not just the head-based ones, but the body, because there's no separation. Head is part of the body. And while we can point to the body, we have a terrible time pointing to the mind. But that doesn't mean that it's not incredibly powerful. And much more powerful if we know it intimately, not just through concepts and through thought, but through awareness, which is bigger than thought. So in our educational system, for instance, were you ever told when you had to learn algebra? How many of you didn't love algebra? Raise your hands if you didn't love algebra. Okay. But weren't you told that algebra was good for you? It would help you think better? No. And geometry? Anybody here not love geometry? I loved geometry. But anyway, yeah, and you're told, well, this will help you to think. And everything has helped us to think, and we've become terrific thinkers. But have you ever had a course or even a teacher mention training in awareness or in attention? What if we didn't take our awareness for granted, but we started to actually learn how to inhabit it, and then when the mind went off the breath, just as an example, so there's me and the breath, there's the subject and there's the object, and then the subject is going to follow the breath and then observe that the subject can't follow the breath, that the mind has a life of its own and goes off, and then the subject decides, oh yeah, the meditation instructions bring my mind back to the breath, and you keep doing that over and over and over again. William James had something very beautiful to say about this being at the heart of any true system of education, but it was hard to articulate it because he didn't have any idea about mindfulness. What if we were to learn to cultivate intimacy with awareness and gradually refine our capacity for awareness? Then maybe we could see things as they actually were, hear what is relevant to be heard, smell what is relevant to be smelled, touch what is relevant to be touched, taste what is relevant to be tasted. How many times do we eat without tasting it all? Have you ever had a mindless hug? It's like awful. Have you ever been disregarded by a physician in an office visit? Like you were there, but you weren't seen? Although, in the medical records, the patient was seen. By whom? We train the medical students in this. Like it's not a luxury. This is at the core of the Hippocratic contract. It's like, show up, be present for your patients. But it's easy to miss that. So it involves a certain kind of training. Could we cultivate awareness and learn to know that territory? What I would call the nowscape. So that would include, the nowscape would include the mindscape, the bodyscape, the soundscape, the landscape, the tastescape, the touchscape, the smellscape, the breathscape. So this is the challenge, and you don't have to be referred to a stress reduction clinic to do it, although, there are some wonderful MBSR teachers here, and I recommend that you do it, not as kind of like remedial. This is not remedial anything. It's like, oh, I'm a basket case, I need the stress reduction clinic. This is advanced training in the art of living. This is advanced training in the art of living. And it's easy to let 10 years or, our whole lives go by and just kind of miss it, as Thoreau said. And not when I came to die, he said, discover that I hadn't lived. What is the hospital and medical school and medicine all about if it's not to restore people to health? But what is health? We had a seminar, a symposium, day-long symposium at the NIH back in May. It was called Mindfulness, Meditation, and Health. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. It's like I had no idea that in 1979 the National Institutes of Health would be holding a day-long symposium on mindfulness, meditation, and health. At the end of which, a man got up who had been a physician research investigator intramurally at the NIH for his entire career, and he said, I think we really should rename the NIH the National Institutes of Disease. Because in point of fact, we're not really paying attention to the deep structure of what we mean when we use the word health. And although we're trying to restore people to health and understanding the disease process, an incredibly important part of it, there's something else that needs investigating. And it's incomplete if we're not holding the whole of it. And I thought that was really quite remarkable that he said that. He got a huge round of applause from the 600 people who were in attendance, which is over 10 times the number of people who attend any of the other seminars in that series, I was told. So even the NIH has woken up to the fact that there's something about this that is compelling us to pay attention. And I don't think it has to do with, like, just some fad or other, as we get addicted to fads of one kind or another. But it really has to do, I think, with a deep, deep longing, a deep, deep yearning to, as Derek Walcott said, to love again the stranger who was ourselves, to greet ourselves arriving at our own door in our own mirror, to give back our hearts to ourselves. All of this, by the way, just in parenthesis, has applications way beyond the personal. It has applications to the life of institutions, to the life of societies, to the life of governments, to the life of the planet. And there's something that I think can be learned from what we've learned in mind-body medicine in the past 30, 25 years that has some profound applications, because if we mistake what's actually going on in this complex world of ours, and we therefore misdiagnose it, we will mistreat it in ways that do not really own this problematic dimension of the human mind in its unwillingness to attend to itself, in ways that are open-hearted, in ways that are clear, in ways that are scientifically valid, and in ways that are, ruthlessly committed to the truth. So I will stop at this point and just say, before we go into Q&A, which we can do for a bit, and just say that I really appreciate your attention. I have appreciated your attention right here. I can feel your hearing, not just your listening, but your hearing. And if any of this has touched you in any way whatsoever, my counsel would be to honor that in some way and nourish it, water those seeds. They're not coming from me, as Steve said. They're really coming from you. Okay? Nobody came into this room and stayed here by accident. There must have been something that you came for, and it wasn't just to see what I look like. So whatever it was that brought you here, that's deep. It's deep, because people don't just accidentally show up to hear about mindfulness. Honor it, feed it, nourish it, cultivate intimacy with it. That's what meditation practice is. Not sitting in the full lotus and breathing through one nostril and out the other, anything like that. It is living your life from moment to moment as if it really mattered. And then you discover that, as Walt Whitman observed, you're much bigger than you think you are. So whatever those personal pronouns are pointing to, it's much bigger than what you think. So thank you, folks. Well, there are many different answers to that, some funnier than others. But I'll just say a lot of it is what we call in psychology conditioning. We've been entrained into particular habits of mind and habits of body that have us kind of sequestered up in the head a lot of the time, caught up in thought. There's a wonderful line from James Joyce's one of his short stories in Dubliners that goes like this: Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body. So that may be why. Yeah, I think that there is some element, because what is instinct? Instinct is taking things in through all the various senses and having the picture, whatever it is, that arises spontaneously, which is not just thought, okay? We use instinct in a way separate from thought, okay? Intuition. Very often in science, the breakthroughs happen after you've battered your head against the wall and you can't. You know everything there is to know and you're not making the connection. And then you drop it. You let go, and then comes up in a dream or in sleep or just a moment of like a eureka, Well, we sometimes think of that as instinct or, of openness. And then, so you could think of instinct as another kind of sense, so to speak. And yes, you do have to honor it. Trust is another question, because you also have to be careful of your instincts. Any scientist knows that you have to watch out for the ways in which you are biased to want a particular outcome. So what mindfulness does is it cultivates discernment as opposed to judging. Okay? Discernment sees, feels, smells, tastes, touches, all the different gradations between black and white, 0 and 1, this or that. Whereas judging tends to rapidly fall into, I got it, it's this, I got it, it's that. And some of the time you may have it, and it may be this or it may be that, but some of the time that whole process might mislead you. And so there's a little voice in the back of your mind saying, look again, look deeper, drop underneath the appearance. Maybe this isn't what it seems. That's your intuition too. And so we need to train to trust it. By trust, I mean just honor that.